This video looks at using scale and proportion for drawing faces. The focus is on studying all of the individual features to draw them together in proportion. In my last video, I was looking at photographs of faces and drafting up the typical divisions between eyes, nose, mouth and the proportions of the head. I noted that a typical head is 2 parts wide to 3 parts long, or a ratio of 2 to 3. Now, so I've started by drawing 2 boxes that are 9 centimetres long by 6 centimetres wide, roughly. Divide the rectangle in 2 horizontally. Divide the lower half of the rectangle into 3 horizontal thirds. Divide the bottom half of the rectangle into 4 vertical sections. So with all of the information that we had from before, so I'm going to look at this in the background as I'm working out where to draw the proportions. And then in order for the drawing to look right, they're not going to be exactly the same as the original drawing. We normally tend to draw the eyes a little bit bigger. Lips can be drawn bigger or smaller. We draw as little information about the noses as we possibly can get away with. Okay, so I've got a 2B pencil here. So I'm going to start with a 2B. So first of all, plotting. A good guide, I'll start with this one here, is the eyes are going on this line halfway down the length of the rectangle that I've drawn. So again, this is 6 centimetres, this is 9 centimetres. So the eyes, we've decided, will go halfway between centre face and side face. So this is a really good point here for the iris of the eye to end up in. So the inside of the eye, here might be a good place to put it. And then we want to round up, so quite almond shaped for the eyes, and then because I'm drawing a woman's face here, I'm going to draw a heavier line here on the outside, indicating maybe eyelashes. And then the more we draw here, the more, I don't know, artificial I find that the eye looks. So a lot of the time, a lot more makeup gets worn on the outside here. So I'm deliberately going to draw a darker line here, and I'm not going to finish the line here. So then within the eye, if we think of the eyeball, so the eyeball is going up behind the eye like this. So what's happening is the pupil of the eye is ending up here, and then the iris works around that pupil. So quite often there's even a gap underneath here, but not always. So the iris then has all of these little lines in it. And for the moment, I'm happy enough with that. I can, of course, exaggerate eyelashes here on the side in the eyes. And the same information, we know that the iris is going to go over on this side here. So starting with the inside eye, roughly halfway here, rounding up and back down. Okay, and then the outer eye here with a slightly darker line and back up. And then we're going to start the iris of the eye up here. Sorry, the pupil, and then the iris will work around that point with all of these little lines, and then I can draw in eyelashes. So for the nose here, with the real person, typically this third line here lined up with the middle nose. The next third lines up with the mouth. I can start the nose right here. I think I'll go just a tiny bit below. So again, with noses, again, if we look back at this one, we tend not to see an awful lot of detail. The most obvious feature is the shadow under the nose here. There's hardly a discernible line here, but a hint of where the side of the nose goes here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the bottom of the nose in, and then literally the 2 little nostrils on the side here as a shadow. And then I'm going to draw in a hint for the side of the nose, just so that I know where it is in my drawing. And then with regard to the mouth, if I bring the mouth right down to this line, the face can look quite elongated. So I'm going to choose to put the mouth a little bit higher up than the center here. So I'm going to draw center mouth here, and I'm drawing between the lips. So I find the middle lip always seems to dip down a little bit, and then the lip sits up and then rounds around, and often there's a little curl up on the edge, or at least the face will look more friendly if we curve up here. So up on the other side here, back down, and then up on the edge here. So if this is between the upper lip and the lower lip here tends to look quite flat in the middle and then curves up on the side. Now for me, I find if I join this line it can begin to look a little bit cartoony, so for the moment I'm going to leave that one empty. So upper lip here I'm going to make roughly the same size, so there's always a little dip in the middle of the lip here, and then the lip goes up and back down. So up and back down. Okay, so I find I've gone a little bit bigger on that upper lip here. I can just reduce that upper lip a little bit and just keep them in proportion. Okay, so to me that looks a little bit more balanced. I kind of like the idea of putting in a few little freckles. So in order to put the eyebrows down, we're looking at roughly a fifth. So I'm happy enough to go with rough. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a very rough fifth. So we know that the eyebrow here will start at a fifth, slightly inside from the eye. So lining up edge of the mouth, inside eye, this is roughly where the eyebrow will start. And it will end, if I go center lip to outer eye, this is where we're ending up over here. Okay, so I'm happy enough with that. Now, I find it quite difficult to get symmetry on between the two eyes. So again, if you're working in pencil, you can always correct that afterwards. So now the slightly harder part is to draw the face shape in. So it can be described as egg-shaped, bigger on top, narrower at the bottom. I do know that I will be flattening out the chin here at the bottom. And then the wider part of the lower face will be for the jawline here. So maybe up to about here. The face will then widen out. So with these proportions, we can add the ears on the outside, but I'm going to make her face just a little bit narrower and try and fit the ears in to the general rectangle. So I'm happy enough here if this is the cheekbone, and to bring that down on the side here, and then going reasonably straight up here and rounding the top of the head here. Okay, so that is giving me a very rough face shape, and then we know that, I mean, they're slightly different on both sides. The ear will start roughly eyebrow here and go down roughly to center nose. Okay, so that's one ear, and the second ear here coming down to roughly center nose. So for me, the ear is always an important part. Okay, so then we're down to hairline. Where does the hairline start? So the hairline is 1.5 times these fifths. So I've got little dots here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we come down to the first one and the second one, halfway between the two here is roughly where the hairline is going to come in. So really now it's down to how are we going to draw hair. I'm going to give her a maybe center parting here in the middle. So slight little gap can work nicely for a parting. And then often the hairline is slightly higher here. So I'm going to give her 2 little hair clips here. And again, this is the head shape without hair. So hair will add on from this point. So if I give her maybe 2 little hair clips here, I'll colour them in so that they stand out. And I've gone slightly beyond where I've drawn the skull shape because I want to add hair on. So I'll do the same on this side here. Okay, and now for the hair. So the hair is clipped back into these little hair clips. So it's going to fit reasonably closely here on the side of the face. But here I want to make it look a little bit more natural. So from the parting here, I'm going to bring the hair up a little bit down to the hair clip. And from here, I'm going to give her slightly fuller hair or maybe more wavy hair. So if the hair clip is holding it down, from this point here, it's going to stand out a little bit from the hair clip. Okay, I'll leave a bit of space here for the second one. And then quite often with the hair, I think some of it may stand out in separate little bunches if it's wavy. And I think often with the hair, it's best rendered with colour rather than fully with lines. Okay, so I'm happy enough with the hint of hair that I've given her for the moment. Important now with regard to the neck. So the neck typically from where the iris finishes, so dropping down from here is generally considered to be a good placement for the neck. Although quite narrow, it can look quite good in a drawing. That is my finished rough drawing of the face. And the intention then is to practice that a few times and then try to draw with fewer and fewer of the support lines that you've been using. So redraw the face a number of times until the lines become better or clearer, or you become more confident in making the marks without needing the support lines as much. This time round, I decided to move the pupils of the eyes further down in the face. I also decided to try and make the face a little bit wider this time, placing the ears outside of the rectangle. Now gradually start to make the boxes smaller. So this time round I'm making a box 6 centimeters long by 4 centimeters wide. I've very roughly drawn in the support lines I need. I've got a finer pencil now because I'm working smaller scale. As I'm working smaller now and trying to work a little bit faster, some of the proportions and details are not quite so accurate. So the hair will always be slightly bigger than the head as we have drawn it. So I'll draw it to here. To continue practicing, consider maybe just having the grid on a sheet of paper and placing a sheet of paper over the top and sketching using the grid as a support rather than on the same page. You could do this on a light box, in a window, or simply through the sheet of paper. In order to experiment with different media, I've decided to trace off one of my previous drawings using ink pens. So I've placed a sheet of paper over the pencil drawing and I'm working on a light box and using 4 different thicknesses of pens, a 0.1, 0.3, 0.5 and 0.7. I'm just going to start with the 0.7 on the eye, this line up at the top. Point 0.3 for this one here. I'm going to go for a 0.1 for almost everything else and then I can come back with the heavier pens. And I'm going to draw in the inside of the eye here in a slightly lighter pen. I'm going to go for that little shadow because I think that shadow is so important. Side of the nose, side of the nose. Okay, so I think the 0.1 will be a bit small for the hair, so I'm going to try a 0.3 and see how I get on with the 0.3.